Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel! I'm Paige, and this is movies I watched this month. It's been a month since I posted a movies I watched this week. I filmed one, but I didn't like it, so I thought we'd do something a little bit different today, because there's 10 movies that I've watched over this past month, and you know that I like to gap. So instead of maybe sitting down, splitting this in two, giving it my time, we're gonna do 10 movies in 10 minutes. These are the 10 movies. Okay? And it's not one movie per minute. It's 10 minutes to get through all of these movies. And some of them will get more love than others, and that's just how the cookie crumbles. That's just how we roll today. Some of these movies I have discussed on my blog. Some of these movies I have discussed on my TikTok. So this is just going to be one moment where I tell you that you should follow me on those things so you don't miss out. And so that if you are watching this video, it's like you already know my thoughts because I already shared them, right? The first movie that we're going to be talking about today, I watched on July 7th. It's August 12th. It's August 12th, yeah. So, and the most recent movie I watched that we're going to be talking about, I didn't write the date on here. Oh my god, I didn't write the date on half of these. Oh my goodness. Okay, well, I saw it together most recently. So, I'm going to set a timer for 10 minutes. Let me go get my timer. I'll set it for 10, and then we're going to start talking. If a movie gets 30 seconds, I don't know what you want from me. Go watch it. And then give me your thoughts in the comments. But if you were coming here for education and an in-depth, thorough review of a movie, you're in the wrong place. Let me go get my timer. Go get a drink, get comfortable. Okay, here's my little timer. To keep me on track, because I love to go on a tangent, I broke down each movie. Yellow means I saw it in the theater. Pink means it's a rewatch. Okay? So, honestly, this is more of a challenge for me and, like, editing Paige, but you're welcome to enjoy it also. Or don't. That's none of my business. Okay, starting now. Here's the timer. We'll put it right there. First movie I watched was Kids, directed by Larry David. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. We're already up to a bad start. The first movie I watched was Kids, directed by Larry Clark. Okay, so the first thing I just want to say is that my takeaways from this movie were that it did a brilliant job depicting, like, nihilism. It's a story that follows a group of teenagers in New York City, Chloe Sevigny being one of them, Chloe Sevigny being the reason I watched the movie. But it follows this group of kids as they go through a summer day in New York City. And the main goal or motivation for these kids is to go out and have sex. The one main guy, oh my god, I wish I had his name up. Honestly, this is great. I don't have anyone's names. The one main guy, his, like, goal is to go out and have sex with virgins. And his best friend is, like, you can tell he's jealous of him because he's not capable of going out and, like, talking to girls the way that his friend is. And a main plot that goes throughout the movie is the passing of HIV. So there's these two guy best friends, and HIV is a plot that is lays throughout the movie because these kids are having sex with one another. They don't have the proper education or knowledge of sex and the consequences that come with sex. Not only, like, pregnancy, STDs, STIs, things like that, but also the emotional turmoil of, like, being in high school and having sex with somebody and how that affects you. So we go through this day with all of these kids, and then they all end up at this one house party together, and I witnessed one of the most disturbing scenes in cinematic history I've ever seen. I've never been so distraught. I turned my laptop around. I started crying. There is a rape scene with Chloe Sevigny where she is raped by Tully, the best friend, who I wrote down is a creeper. So what's really important here is that Chloe Sevigny, previously in the story, it is said that she had sex with the main dude, whose name I can't remember. Oh no. Okay, well, it's not my notes, so it's not a priority. And he gave her HIV. So he proceeds to have sex with other girls in the movie, therefore passing along this HIV. And in the end, she gets sexually assaulted going to this party because she was drugged by a friend of hers, and then she goes to this party, and Tully, who is the friend, or Tully, who is the lead guy, I don't remember, rapes her. And what I found so interesting about this film is the consequences of exploration and curiosity from these kids, because it's very clear that there's no parental supervision. They're like just going around and enjoying themselves as kids do. But when kids aren't properly educated on certain topics, they are doomed to find out consequences for themselves. And I highly doubt that these kids' parents are telling them about the dangers of sex. It's not like uncommon for teenagers to have sex. I don't know why we have so much film and television and media that depicts teenagers having sex, and then in real life we act as if that's not a thing that's going on. So I don't know why we don't educate them properly on the things that can happen for their safety and protection. It's not as a means of control, it's a means of helping them understand right from wrong, understanding coercion, or things that may be sexual assault or harassment that they weren't aware of because they're just accepting the things that are happening to them. Do you get what I'm saying? So Larry Clark had a really nihilistic point of view through this film, and I think it was done so well because it was actually kids that age instead of 30-year-olds playing teenagers, which is why it made me so distraught and disturbed. And also, one final note about this movie that I wanted to say was the depiction of virginity as value in movies and TV. I think it's really dangerous for many reasons, but when you have the idea planted in young girls' brains that the way that they're going to get people to like them is through their body, through offering their body to somebody else, and then also in the same breath telling them that they lose value the second they offer their body to somebody else, I have a big problem with that. And I think this movie touched on that in a different way, maybe in more of a cautious way, but I just thought, oh, there's also a scene where someone gets beat with a skateboard, and it was just so disturbing. I would definitely recommend this movie to you, though. If I could recommend this movie to anybody, I would recommend it to high schoolers, even though it is a little disturbing, and I would tell you to watch it with discretion. I definitely think there's a very important message here, and similarly with movies like Mid-90s or 13, or any film that really explores the true nature of teenagers and rebelling against like what they think is right and wanting freedom, even though because they think they're older than they are. There's just so many things in this movie, and I think Tully and Casper. Casper should absolutely die. Casper should die. Casper is the one that raped Chloe 70. Okay, moving on. We don't have time for this. That's Kids. I rated it 3 stars. It kind of just left me feeling gross, but also I was pondering about it, ruminating on it for days and days and days. So I guess that's a good thing. The next movie I watched was Superman, directed by James Gunn. I watched this in theaters, and I actually already did a review on it with Trainwreck Sports, which I'll link below. You can watch, and I wrote a blog about it. So I'm only going to share 3 thoughts with you on this movie, and then we're moving along, okay? My first one is going to be Kill 'Em with Kindness, which this movie showed us, Kill 'Em with Kindness. I think it comes to a point, though, when you're trying to kill people with kindness and you realize that you're so much better than them in terms of morals and empathy and all of those things that you do have to physically fight back. And Superman did that. But I think leading with kindness and leading with empathy towards other people because you're a decent human being is a great thing. And I'm so glad that Superman did that. And I'm so glad that Superman cared for the everyday civilians. I know this is like a minute thing, but there's so many superhero movies where people just die in the line of fire and nobody cares. And it's like, okay, like that, you just crashed that building in order to try and kill one bad guy. 10,000 people are dead now. What? We don't care. Like, there's such humanity in Superman, even though he comes from a different planet, which was kind of the premise of the film, that humanity is our superpower. And I just thought they did a beautiful job with it. And Nicholas Hoult is crazy good. Rachel Brosnahan? I say it wrong every time. Rachel Brosnahan is incredibly talented. She is, like, wicked smart in this movie, not only as Lois Lane, but her humor, her timing, her physicality, wicked smart. And she's also one of the most beautiful women I've ever laid my eyes on. So I just wanted to pass that along, too. David Cornsweet, I mean, we could go 10 minutes talking about David Cornsweet. We don't have time! I loved the part, though, where they had a twin of David Cornsweet. It's the year of the twin. We've seen this in so many movies this year already. But it kind of gave me that mentality of, like, when guys post a TikTok and they're like, it's me versus me. It's me versus me. Like, I'm standing in the way of my greatness. That's what that reminded me of. I loved Superman. I rated it 5 stars. I thought it was perfect. I thought it was amazing. And I'm not a DCU chickadee, but I'm about to be. Okay, that was Superman. Bye. If you want more information on my Superman thoughts, go search and go dig for them. They're out there. Okay, the next movie I watched that I want to talk to you guys about was I Know What You Did Last Summer. the reboot. Now, before I get into this, it was directed by Jennifer Caitlin Robinson. And as you guys know, if you follow me on Dry Gin Martini's Instagram, which you should, because as they say on the Ride podcast, if you're not, as they say on Ride the Pod, if you're not following the Instagram, you're only getting half the story. You guys are missing out on so many things. Follow me on Instagram because you would know that Tyreek Withers has been my flavor of basically the month. He's so fine, and I can't wait to see him. Oh my God. So the movie starts and Tyreek Withers comes on screen and he is engaged to Madeline Klein. It's their engagement party. Chase Sweetwaters? I just watched a video of her saying the pronunciation and I'm already forgetting it. I'm so sorry. I think it's Sweet. I'm so sorry. I literally love her so much. She's in Bodies. I love her. She's also in The Studio, but I don't have Apple TV. Anyway, a group of friends, they all reunite. They go to this engagement party for Madeline Klein, who is just so funny in this movie. Oh my God, she has the best, like, comedic timing, and it's so subtle. It's just, like, her pauses and her facial expressions. She's so funny, and I need her on SNL. I need her to host SNL. I just kind of need to see it. That's a selfish desire. We are not going to do this in 10 minutes. I'm so nervous already. Okay. Anyway, base bag brand deal in the beginning of the movie. So Chase Sweetwaters and Madeline Klein and Tyreek Withers and Prince Eric, they all are at this party and like whatever. They're like, let's go for a ride because they have a joint. Now, my thought, I work in the cannabis industry. My thought process here is like, go sit on a log. Go walk down to the beach. Why are we going to get in a car all inebriated? Don't drink and drive, and don't drive high. Okay? If you don't care about your life, care about the other people on the road, all right? And we'll get into that because they, of course, are dicking around on the road, Tyreek Withers to be specific. And rather than in the first movie where they quite literally crash into a person and drive off, they're dicking around in the road, and it causes somebody to veer off and... That was 10 minutes? I'm sorry. Am I, like... Well, I guess we'll just set a timer for another 10, because that was actually crazy impossible. How am I supposed to do this in 10 minutes? What an ambitious idea. Okay, anyway, let's set another timer for 10. Okay, maybe that's lying to me. Anyway. Okay. So, when they were at this party, one of the cater waiters or one of the girls working the event used to be friends with them. Her name is Stevie, and she is playing Caroline Bessette in that new American Horror Story show with the Kennedys. Anyway, don't quote me on that. I don't remember her name. But, so... I'm not going to get into the plot because I can't. I don't have time. But what I will tell you is that I thought it was brilliant, and a lot of people online were mad. They were like, Freddie Prinze Jr.'s character would never do that. Spoiler, Freddie Prinze Jr. is kind of the bad guy in this movie. But who cares? Who cares? Like, honestly, it switched it up and made it really fun for me because I think a lot of the time reboots and remakes are blasé. They're mediocre. And this one riled me up. This one I really enjoyed. I thought it was super fun. I thought it was kind of cheesy at times, but it was really good. It was well done. And let me read you my 3 notes from it. I loved how they incorporated the OG cast. Though Sarah Michelle Gellar is dead, they bring her back in a creative way. They didn't just say, actually, she's not dead, she's back. Because like Ryan Phillippe wasn't in the movie. But that's a creative and fun way to bring somebody back, right? Which would totally make sense because Madeline Klein like loses 2 lovers in the movie in brutal deaths. It would totally make sense that she would have such like horrific nightmares. Anyway, I just thought it was a fun, great summer slasher that you should totally watch. Don't take it so seriously. And I love that they actually killed off the main characters. Like when Milo dies, I was like, whoa. But whatever, I thought it was really great. And I'm in love with Tyreek Withers. Moving on. Next movie I watched was Brown Bunny, directed by Vincent Gallo. Ooh, another one I only watched for Chloe 70. And you'll see my notes for I Know What You Did Last Summer. Full page. You'll see my notes for Brown Bunny. I drew a daisy. I wrote very minimal things because the movie left me feeling indifferent. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. I was just like left thinking about it for so long because we follow Vincent Gallo on this journey, and throughout the journey, you're trying to uncover, like, what he's trying to tell you. Like, it's clear that he's trying to connect with all these different women, but he's incapable of doing so. And you're like, what? There's so many long takes, and it's very slow. and it like allows you to digest everything that you're seeing and like question the things happening before your eyes, which I think a lot of movies are so fast now that you don't get those pauses. But it was just like this journey and travel movie that was extremely intimate and vulnerable. And I just like, when you see the final sequence when Chloe Sevigny finally comes into the picture and we learn that they used to be lovers, her name is Daisy, and they engage in real fellatio on screen. And then you find out that she got sexually assaulted by 2 guys and died, I think. Did she die? Or she died, right? Okay, this is what I mean. Like, I just was kind of left like, what? Like, this whole time he's chasing this feeling and this sensation of being with Daisy, but he realizes he can't have her because of what happened to her and how it was kind of his fault. And so we're battling this grief throughout the film as he tries to make his way back to her. It was really sad, and it just was really vulnerable. Like, that's the best word I have for it. It was such an interesting movie, but it felt like a journey to nowhere. That was Brown Bunny. Okay, so the next movie I watched was Superbad, which is a classic directed by Greg Mottola. I don't really have anything to say to you about Superbad that hasn't been said before. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel here. I'm just going to tell you my favorite scene. And my favorite scene in Superbad is when Michael Cera and Jonah Hill, they get to that party, and it's right about the time where Jonah Hill, when Seth, his name is Seth, right? And Michael Cera is Evan. Sure, let's go with that. So McLovin is out with the cops. Seth gets period blood on his leg from dancing with a girl, and he's like trying to figure out how to get it off. And then Michael Cera gets trapped in this room with a bunch of people doing coke, and they're like, "You're that guy's brother. Sing. And he sings, these eyes have seen a lot of love, but they've never seen a love like I have with you." That's my favorite part of the movie. I also just love Emma Stone, and I love that every time I see this movie, there's a scene that I've never seen before. It's like the Christmas Story on TV 24/7 on Christmas Eve. There's a scene in that movie that I've never seen that I'll see for the first time this Christmas. And I find that beautiful, and it happens every year. And I was watching this at my friend's house with her and her cousin, and I don't remember what the scene was. It was when Seth and Evan are trying on pants in the mall, and he's like, "I'm trying to get the pants like how your dad's pants fit me." And all 3 of us were like, I've literally never seen this part before. And I've seen Superbad 1,000+ times. But anyway, it's a classic. Have you never seen it? What are you smoking, love? Okay. The next movie I watched, Crime and Punishment in Suburbia, directed by Rob Schmidt. Now, before I even pressed play on this movie, I just got American Beauty vibes. I was like, this movie is going to be like American Beauty, where you have this picture-perfect family, and the dad's a little bit perverted and weird, and then you have the creepy neighbor with the camera. And guess what? That's pretty much what it was, but it was a little bit different. So we have Roseanne as our main girl. There's this creepy guy with the camera who, if I could describe him to you, I would say that he is a love child of Nicholas Hoult and Jared Leto. That's pretty much all I can say about that. He narrates the movie, but he sounds so much like Ed Norton that I was like, I looked in the IMDb for like Edward Norton narration. It wasn't him, but it sounded exactly like him in Primal Fear specifically. Anyway, Roseanne, we follow her. She's a high schooler. She's dating this guy. Vincent. Vincent has a crush on Roseanne. He actually has a stalker crush on Roseanne. Roseanne has a boyfriend, of course, and he's honestly kind of fine. But whatever. So she's got a creepy stepdad, and her mom, Maggie, really doesn't want to be her mom anymore. So she kind of just, like, falls in love with this guy who is in the Hunger Games and decides, hey, I'm going to leave you. You're going to stay with your stepdad for a while. I just got to figure this stuff out. And she's like, what? And her stepdad is a creepy pervert who sexually assaults her. So then she decides she's gonna kill him, which totally valid, she should kill him, and her and her boyfriend craft up a plan to murder the dad. And then we follow as they, like, it ends up framing the mom, but not on purpose. She just happened to go home at the wrong time and walk in on the crime. And then all this stuff happens and Roseanne confesses. And while this is happening, after the murder, she's like, I can't look at you anymore, boyfriend. Like, you just remind me of the fact that we killed my stepdad. So she starts hanging out with Vincent a lot. And then she ends up going to jail and Vincent visits her all the time. And then eventually she gets out. But it's definitely worth the watch, even though I just whizzed through the plot here. The few takeaways that I got from this movie were that Act 2 through 5 are fucking crazy, because the movie's like quite literally split into acts. And I loved how they did that with like a collage picture. I thought that was so cool. But this reminded me of Blue Velvet also, and the notion that in the suburbs where the suburbs are back here, that's why I'm pointing. In the suburbs, people very much like to put on a display that they are the perfect family. Perfect house, white picket fence, everything's sunshine and rainbows. And then when something terrible does get out, when it does get in the Facebooks, in the neighborhood group chats and everything, they're like, how quickly can we move on from this crime or this discomfort, because it is shaking up the status quo of the neighborhood. And so, similar to Blue Velvet, how it like dives deep into the underbelly of the suburbs and all of these like hidden secrets and hidden things going on. Crime and Punishment in Suburbia really focused on how like people are looking for this kind of stuff, this kind of drama, and then the second it happens, everybody's trying to push it under the rug. And that same thing happens in American Beauty, which is why I thought they were comparable. And I love the movie American Beauty, even though it's also weird, but these are quite literally two sides of the same coin. So that's that. Next movie I watched. My mother did not like it. We watched it together. She tends to not like movies. Who had the idea of 10 movies in 10 minutes? Who? I need to speak to them because it was stupid and obviously fucking impossible. Lars and the Real Girl, directed by Craig Gillespie? I don't know. I'm gonna guess. I watched this with my mom. She wasn't a fan. She didn't like Ryan Gosling dating a doll. And I think that ties perfectly into the plot. Ryan Gosling is this loner man who is afraid of being left because of his family problems. And he lives in the garage beside his brother and his pregnant wife. Okay? And he orders a girlfriend online, a doll. And her name is Veronica? I don't remember. Her name's Veronica or Vanessa or Violet or Vanderbilt or something with a V. I remember it being with a V. Anyway, what I took away from this movie was the sense of community and camaraderie that people have for a person and the acceptance that they have to help that person like navigate through life. Ryan Gosling is dating a doll. It's very clear that she's a porcelain, like, sex doll sent to you with a backstory and all of this stuff so that you can date the doll because you're a loner. For whatever reason you're dating the doll. But the entire community comes together to treat this doll as if it's a real person. They pick her up and drop her off at work. She volunteers through the church and at the hospitals. Like, they treat her as though she's a real person because they know that is what will help Ryan Gosling cope. And also what's really beautiful about the story is that this is all happening while his sister-in-law is pregnant. And it's very clear that it's like gearing up for her to give birth. And as she moves forward with her pregnancy, he and the doll like gains consciousness and like becomes a person. He slowly detaches himself from this doll, and like through the community and the support that everyone rallies around him to show, he becomes more comfortable and like loses interest in the doll. And I thought that that was a metaphor for the baby coming. I don't know if that was correct, but that was just how I interpreted it and how it directly affected their family. But like, women are so much more supportive than men because they all rallied together to be like, well, we'll still love him no matter what, but you know, like, this is what we have to do to cope with him. And I thought that was very similar to how you would react to having a baby. Like, we'll love the baby no matter what. Like, this is unconditional love, and we'll do whatever we can to support the baby. They do that with Lars because he is a bit socially awkward, and he just struggles with connection and things like that. And Ryan Gosling offers and exudes talent and vulnerability in this role that I just thought was so wonderful. And I really think this movie is important when it comes to accepting other people for their differences, because in movies we love to be like, oh, he's so quirky and he's so fun, but if you saw a person like that in real life, would you be able or be willing to support them in that way, even though you're dating a doll? That's a little weird. Yeah, but if that's what we need for him to feel comfortable and be able to get up and go to work every day and, live, that's awesome. And then in the end, there's a beautiful scene where him and this girl that he works with, who too has like attachment to a doll, which, well, it was more of a stuffed animal, which I totally relate to because I sleep with my same stuffed animal since birth. But it was just this idea of like finding a person or finding a thing that you feel comfortable with. And it's okay to carry that around with you. And the least people could do is show understanding and support for you. And so I thought the final scene was really beautiful when him and the other girl come together in a sense. I rated the movie 4 stars. I just really loved its depiction of community. Those are my thoughts on that. Okay. Now, the next movie, I did talk about this on my TikTok. This is White Palace. Hey, White Palace, directed by Louis Mandelki, with Susan Sarandon and James Spader. Now, I watched this movie for Susan Sarandon and James Spader. I didn't care what the plot was. It could have been them sitting on the floor staring at each other for an hour and 30 minutes. I would have watched the whole thing. Okay? But to my pleasant surprise, it was a juicy, hot, steamy, sensual, sexy, delectable love story with a reasonable and tasty age gap. James Spader, 27, Susan Sarandon in her 40s. What number? Doesn't matter, because she literally looked like 25, and she's so gorgeous, and she's just, she's so fun. And what I love so much about this movie specifically, when it came to Susan Sarandon's character, other than her being electric and fearless and just outspoken, and she was just so chic. I loved her. She had an infatuation with Marilyn Monroe. And the reason I bring this up is because I think a lot of the time in movies nowadays, we do not give characters enough depth. We do not give them personality traits. We don't give them weird quirks. We don't give them something for somebody to remember, like Susan Sarandon being obsessed with Marilyn Monroe in this movie. Or, let me think of another example. Hold on here. Give me 1 second to think of another example. Okay, for some reason, the only thing that's coming to me is Jennifer's Body when Jennifer is on Color Guard. But, like, a character who has... it's basically giving you context clues that the character has a life. She has hobbies. She has interests outside of whatever man she's chasing or whatever plot's happening in the movie. And that's what I loved about this. It was just like she had a shrine to Marilyn Monroe in her house. And you could tell that kind of fueled her fire a little bit. And that translates into who she is as a character and how their relationship... her and James Spader is constantly in turmoil. Blah, 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 blah. Other than it being an incredible love story and super hot, I just really loved that. Like, James Spader is grieving the loss of his wife, and everybody around him makes it very clear that his wife was super well loved. He's only 27, and everybody's like married and settled down, and he's lost his first wife, and he's coming to terms with that while also diving headfirst into this relationship with Susan Sarandon's character. And what's so interesting is that it completely makes sense. Like, he's a little embarrassed to show her off or invite her or invite her out to hang out with her friends and stuff because she's in her 40s. And she is totally aware of that. She's like, I know that you're embarrassed to be around me, but don't fucking lie to me about it. Like, talk to me. We're supposed to be together. And so she ends up leaving. And then there's a beautiful scene where he follows her to New York and is like, I want to be with you. Which, those are always my favorite things in movies. But I just think this element of romance in this movie, and maybe it's just like James Spader movies as a whole, but Sex, Lies, and Videotape, Crash, White Palace, what I'm fucking talking about, White Palace, so duh. All of these movies, they're just different than like your cookie cutter romance story where two people have a meet cute and then they fall in love and then they inevitably break up and then they get back together. Like, there's more depth. And I think it's because every character that James Spader plays, or these movies specifically, they're so niche. They're so specific. Like in Crash, these people are turned on by quite literally getting in car accidents or watching people get in car accidents and the violence and adrenaline associated with that. which to like the normal person is bizarre, but it adds such a layer to the movie that make them stand out and make them really interesting. Sex Lies and Videotape, James Spader is impotent and has a fetish for recording women talking about sex. In this movie, he's grieving the loss of his wife while trying to explore an age gap relationship that people on TikTok would probably freak out about. But I loved it. I loved it so much. And unfortunately, this one you do have to watch on a super weird illegal website, but you can actually find the website if you watch my TikTok talking about it. Okay. Now, the last and final movie I watched before I go to the movies tonight to see Weapons, which I'm so excited about. I saw Together, directed by Michael Shanks. And the first thing I want to say about this movie is that it completely exceeded any of my expectations. I thought that the movie was going to be about two people who were so codependent on one another and in love with one another that they quite literally started morphing into one person. And though that does happen, it's through a cult. Now, stick with me here because I'm probably not going to do a good job of explaining this. Alison Brie and Dave Franco. Millie and Tim. Millie and Tim live in New York City, and they have a great group of friends. She's a teacher. He's a musician or like a wannabe musician of some sort. And they decide they're going to move out to the country. They're going to move out to the countryside. And I believe it was Fulton, New York, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, they move out to the country, and right away, they're secluding themselves from their friends and the life that they know so they can be comfortable and live together in this beautiful house. And one day they go on a hike and they fall into a ravine. And in the ravine, there's a body of water. I don't know why you would ever drink out of it, but they do. And then eventually they get out and all these crazy things start happening. But what happens in the beginning of the film, like the prologue of the film, they're searching for two people and they find these two dogs that fell in the ravine and then came out. Very similarly, they drink the water, and then the two of them start eating each other and becoming one dog. So that kind of plants a seed in your head for what's about to happen. Now, what you find out throughout the film is they like slowly start sticking together and like being drawn to each other and having to physically separate. Let me break this down. What actually visually happens over the course of the film, after they drink the water and get out, they slowly start morphing together, but it's very subtle. It's like their legs will get stuck together, their lips when they're kissing, they have sex and his penis gets stuck inside a vagina. Their arms get stuck together, they have to saw them off, and then then we get into the third act, but I'm getting ahead of myself. While that's happening here, they move away, and Alison Brie's character is like physically pulling away from Dave Franco because she's like, we moved all the way out here. You don't want to have sex with me. Like, I just feel like if we're going to end it, we should end it now. It's just going to be harder along the way. Like, do you want to be in this relationship with me? And he's like, yeah, I mean, we spent all this time together. Like, what do you mean I'm just going to up and leave? And so she's kind of pulling away from him, or just like, it feels like she's slowly getting over him throughout the movie. And he notices that because it was the opposite when they were in New York City. Like, she gets down on one knee and proposes to him with no ring, and it's super embarrassing. I literally wanted to, like, leave the theater. I was so embarrassed. But so now we see that dynamic switch where it's like the second the girl is like, you know what? I'm kind of over your shit. I'm going to start heading this way. The guy's like, no, I need you. I can't live without you. So the way that that's depicted is she starts going to work. She starts leaving the house, and he physically can't breathe when she's not around. He needs to be close to her. We know that it's because they drank the water and they're slowly morphing into each other, but the way that it's presented is like that exact thing in a relationship. When one person is like, you know what, I'm kind of over this, like I'm gonna start distancing myself, the other one starts coming closer. When it's like, that's what I wanted this whole fucking time. But so back to when they fall in the ravine and they drink the water, Dave Franco has a line where he's like, I was getting culty vibes down there. I didn't get culty vibes at all. I didn't pick up on that. I thought this was going to be supernatural. I thought this was going to be like some horrific, terrible element that is driving them together. And though it was different than what I expected. And what was it? Marriage. The institution of marriage presented as a cult in this movie. Now, let me break that down for you. So, the cult has bells all across the forest, and basically, the one creepy neighbor who I thought was a creep from the very beginning is a member of this cult. And he's kind of laying the groundwork for you. He comes over for dinner one night and he starts talking about how in Greek mythology they believed that a person used to have 8 limbs, 4 arms, 4 legs, 2 heads, and 2 faces. And Zeus thought we would be too powerful, so he split us in half. 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 face, 1 head. Now, then he says that people spend their whole life trying to get back and find their other half. And so the cult, essentially, you join the cult, you get married, you fuse into one person, and you're happy and you spend your life together physically in matrimony. Now, what I interpreted from this was using marriage and the institution of marriage and the commercialization of marriage and weddings and like fueling women's romantic thoughts with finding your ideal prince husband and getting married and having a perfect wedding and then spending the rest of your life together. That's what I interpreted the cult as, the institution of marriage, and how we feed women this idea that they're going to meet their perfect match and they're going to get married and have a wonderful life together, spending it in a ceremonious matrimony and all of those things. Because quite literally they get married and they fuse into one another. And the way that that's shown in the movie is like they are in New York with a life. They have a life together. They have friends, they have jobs, and then they decide that they just kind of want to be alone together. So they move out to Fulton, New York and seclude themselves. And when you have friends and relationships, you'll notice this. Like, they will quite literally seclude and isolate themselves from the group because they want to be together all the time, even though you can be together and be independent. This movie does a brilliant job showing codependency in a relationship and complacency and how that breeds codependency, because when you're not actively working on your relationship and your communication and improving as individuals who happen to be partners in this life, you become complacent. You don't want to have sex. You don't want to go on dates. You don't want to do anything with each other because you're just comfortable with one another. And they say that many times in the film, like, I'm just comfortable with you, so like I'm not going to go out look for another person. Like, we're together now. Like, they're so blasé about it, they don't even care. They're like, well, I mean, we've been dating long enough. Like, I'm not going to break up and try and find somebody else. And I've literally heard people in my life say that. Whoa. So she's pulling away of Tim because he's a shitty boyfriend, like, let's be honest. And then Tim, who's been lame for this long, realizes his security and like potential love could go away, so he physically needs to get closer to him. I thought it was a great societal commentary expressed through body horror, because it is true, like, when you're dating someone for so long and you don't know where you end and that person begins, that's a problem. Just because you're dating somebody, it doesn't mean that you need to encompass that person entirely. You're an individual. They're an individual. You just happen to be individuals in love, and it's a partnership, but you got to work at it. So I thought the marriage as the cult was really beautiful, especially with, like, I don't know if this is just me, but all of the things and like stuff I'm seeing on social media about weddings and all these rules and all these expectations, and like I feel like we're going back in time when it was like your only purpose was marriage and children. And it's like we've been doing so well getting away from that. Why are we going back there? You can get married. I think that's great. If you want to get married and have a husband or a wife or whatever and raise children and have that traditional lifestyle, go ahead. But I don't understand why the people that want to get married always look down on people that don't or don't care. Like, it's very similar with my thoughts on people that have a traditional 9-to-5 job and then people that want to go pursue the arts or something that's maybe a little bit challenging, not secure. Like, if you want to go join the rat race and join a 9-to-5 job, which I have, like, go ahead. Nobody ever scrutinizes you for that. But the second you do something that's against the norm, whatever the subjective norm of where you live is in your culture, it's like people are gung-ho to, like, gang up on you and ask you why. So I thought using marriage, especially at this time where we're going so backwards in terms of traditional values and women only, having purpose in the home, I found this very interesting to me, because she had a job that she went to every day. She was the provider. She had that masculine role. He was a whiny baby who wanted to make music but couldn't even go to the show because he couldn't be away from her. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, I just think it challenged a lot of issues we're seeing brought back up in society, and I really like horror is always going to be the place that you can go to see like society and how it's reflected in the movie. if you go watch horror movies in the 70s from horror movies now, and you see the difference in depiction of women and not only their bodies and their appearance, but the ways in which they're murdered in horror movies, we're seeing a lot more final girls, a lot more scream queens. I just find all of that stuff so interesting, and horror is always going to be the genre that illuminates that. So, which is why I'm really excited to go see Weapons tonight. But that was my attempt at 10 movies in 10 minutes, even though it was 10 movies in 20, however many minutes. Partially why I wanted to rapid speed film this video is because I knew that I couldn't film the next video until this was done. And I think that's something I struggle with as a creative person, is the idea of perfectionism, and you want everything to be perfect before it goes out, but then you know how restricting and dangerous that can be because it hinders you from ever completing things and finishing things, and you get in your own way. So all of that to say, hopefully this is a new beginning for me and I can do more of what I love, because I used to be so consistent at it, and then I feel like when one thing happens that knocks me off course, I really struggle to get back on. So that's something I'm working on, and I'll be candid with it about you because we're here together. Obviously, if you made it this far, you care what I have to say, right? That said, another thing, if you made it this far in the video, congratulations, because I have a fun little story for you real quick. This past Sunday was the last day of Yellow Dress, which is a film that I've been working on sporadically throughout the summer, directed by the Mars Angel baby. I'll put some pictures up for you right here. But I had the privilege of working on set and shooting some behind the scenes content and kind of working as a PA, just assisting in any way I could to learn more, which is my favorite thing to do, and see an independent movie being made, like start to finish kind of. And Sunday, I actually got to be in it. I actually had some lines. I actually got my makeup done and was in a movie. And it was the coolest experience of my life. And I'm still on a high from it and thinking about it. I can't stop thinking about it. It was the coolest day of my life, really. But yeah, that's my dream. My dream is to work full-time in film and television and entertainment and perform and write and direct and just create. That is the life that I am trying to create for myself right now. So though at the end of the day, Dry Gin Martini is mine and what I choose to do with it is up to me, there is some form of, I guess, pressure or obligation like I feel and I put on myself, because if I don't do these things, I don't produce or create the content or the videos or the blogs or the magazines that I want to create, it's like it all just gets stuck up here and then I get physically stuck. So I think I want to start vlogging more of that creative process just for myself, because it holds me accountable, but it makes it more fun, like documenting the journey and the process. So yeah, that was all Ramble City. But if you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. So yeah, that was the movies I watched this month. We're going to be a little better about that one. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe if you feel like it, or don't. You know the drill. You know I don't care. I'm just happy that you watched this for 1 second or a half a second. I'm just happy that you're here. That said, check out my TikTok, my Instagram, my website, my Substack, because they all kind of coincide with one another. And if you're not following them, you're only getting half the story, in the words of the Ride Pod. So till next time, stay flirty, stay thirsty, watch more movies together, make more movies together. Okay, till next time, I'll see you soon. Chin chin and all that other hullabaloo. Okay, bye.